What if we could learn from outstanding leaders in business, sports, and education from some of the best voices in corporate America? Lighting the Path is a series of interviews with industry leaders whose stories highlight strategies that build purpose-driven cultures, engage and retain top talent, develop drivers that create high-performance teams, and connect people to the vision of your company. Join us to hear from game-changing, talented leaders whose paths make a difference at work and at home.
I love opportunities to be able to talk to what I consider world-class athletes, because there's so much that we can learn about overcoming difficulties and not competing against others. But what I love about world-class athletes is they learn to compete with themselves. And my friend James Brown today is just that, world-class athlete, all-American track and field star. And his journey has taken him from that type of beginning to today. He has a business. He has a message called the Exchange Zone. And what's so cool about that is he and I play in the same space. In fact, he's all about connection. How do you connect with people? And what's really important about his message is how do you connect with people in the form of presentations? You know, and I'm not talking about just being a keynote speaker. I'm talking about one-on-one in meetings, and when you're running projects or something, or maybe you're being asked to go and speak to a group of people. And I believe that that's a difference maker in somebody's career when you learn to step into that space of that's on discomfort. And that's the reason I wanted James to come and spend some time with us today. So James, welcome.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here, Mike. Thanks for allowing me to be part of this Lighting the Path movement, this podcast, who trust me with your friends, your audience. What an exciting time we have. So looking forward to spending some time with you today. Yeah,
well, but there's two other reasons why I wanted to spend some time with people watching this. One is you got a you have James Earl Jones voice, so that's kind of cool, you know. Yeah. And the second is, how can you not talk to somebody whose name is James Brown? I mean,
yes.
That alone is you got to tell them we're going to have fun. So. James, I want us to start off by doing this. And here is something you weren't aware of this, but to get ready today is that I'm doing something I've never done in any one of my shows here, or what have you. Just to connect here, what have you. I went and got my hat.
Oh man, okay.
I went and got my hat.
You go. I love it.
So I'm putting my hat on today here because I want you to tell people, how many hats do you have in your closet?
At last count, I was at 41.
41. And how did your wife feel? How did your wife feel about your closet?
It was a problem at first, and now she actually bought this one for me recently for Father's Day, which was not too long ago. So now she's starting to understand. I don't even know how this thing came to be. People ask, how did you get into this? And I don't know. I think my brother and I exchanged. He bought hats one year for us to wear, the Browns hat, from the Cleveland Browns. Mm-hmm. And we started wearing them. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy you a hat. So I bought him a B hat. And then then people started expecting it. They started looking for it. And so I'm like, well, you may as well go with it. So it's worked. And I'm glad you have your hat on. And
I got mine. You actually inspired me, because every time I've seen you in any meetings, the national meetings we've been to, or local meetings, you always have your hat on. I mean, I can see you from across the room. And I was preparing for the HR symposium I'm speaking in a couple of weeks, and I ordered some promotional material, some cards, and they upsold me. Because after I placed the order, I said, how'd you like a hat with your logo? I went, oh, James has got that. Boom, I hit the buy button. So
I love it.
This showed up last week. And so in your honor, I made sure I'm putting this thing on today so that we can connect. I want us to dive into a couple of messages today, this brief time that we've got together. The first one is that we talked about this background you have as a world-class athlete, and part of your message that you kind of use to excite, to motivate, to inspire both youth as well as adults is the championship mindset.
Right.
And I love that concept that if we as mere mortals just and take on and have an attitude, say, what, I'm gonna have a championship mindset. Yeah. My life will be totally different.
Yeah.
Tell our viewers, what do you mean by that? What is the championship mindset that somebody had that's not a, world-class track star?
Yes.
They're in school, or they
Yeah.
are in the office, and they're working customer service.
Yes.
What are you talking about? What makes a difference?
Having a championship mindset is beyond athletics, beyond athletes. When you look at the successful people in the world, and I'm not talking about in terms of C-suites, I mean, they have a championship mindset, but if you're working a counter and serving somebody and you have a championship of winning, a wanting to connect mindset, that's all we want to do. It's not about athletics, even though most athletes at whatever level has competed at some point. But how do we compete? How do we become the best version of ourselves? How do we become the best of who we were created to be? And that's a championship mindset. And one of the sessions that I give, I talk about what is the win. A championship mindset is not always about coming in first, but it's about doing your very best to be the best version of yourself every opportunity, every experience, every time. How do you do that? And it all starts with our mentality. What is our objective? What is our goal? What is the why behind what we're doing? And so if we can have a championship mindset and we can implement that into everything that we do as best we can, I just know it'll make the world a better place, because a championship mindset is about them. It's not about me. It's about what can I do to provide. What can I do to be a resource? What can I do to make your day a little easier? What can I do to have empathy for you, especially with what's going on in the world right now?
I love what you're talking about, and that was my trigger. Is that what happens? Is that championship is not about how good can I perform and show my talent and capabilities, but how can I show my talent and capabilities in impacting the lives of others?
That's it.
So if I can shift my focus on the impact somebody else might need and focus on them.
Right.
It's our friend Rob Pennington. I know that Rob had an important part in your life.
Oh man,
250 college students in San Antonio. A little nervous because of the gray hair here. So I'm talking to college students, how they can respond to me. And Rob told me this. He said, Mike, he said, you have to understand, there are going to be 250 people in the room. There's somebody that's supposed to be there that day to hear your message. You know who that one is.
Right.
But if you go and talk to that person and focus on that,
right,
you're going to find out that your ability to have the right words, to be able to deliver a message that has impact, is going to totally shift.
That's right.
And I will tell you, it was one of the best up until that time. I think it was the best talk I'd ever given at that time. Now, since then, I carried that mindset before I get on stage.
Yeah.
When I think about who is supposed to hear this, what are they supposed to get out of this? Shift the attention of me performing to me serving in the spoken word.
That's it.
Yeah, and that's why with your message of speaking, of being able to communicate with others, such an important thing I wanted to tap into. That especially for you and I have talked before about the fact that people are afraid of snakes, they're afraid of death, but they're more afraid of a group of people.
Yeah.
And this is somebody who just killed a copperhead on my patio last week, and I'm going to tell you. I'm telling you, I walked outside. That sucker was about that long.
Oh,
I still have nightmares. I still worried about it. But if you think about helping somebody sharpen their saw with being able to do a presentation, is there kind of a formula that you use from a coaching standpoint to help them prepare and then craft a message? We'll talk about stage presence in a minute, but I think that the hardest thing is what do I say?
The first thing that I talk about is how do we organize our thoughts? And I like to use the rule of three. I think it's a tried true rule. So we organize in buckets of three. We think about lights, there's red, yellow, green. They taught us in school, stop, drop, and roll. And it's 911. So threes are something that we just understand. So I like people to organize their big thoughts in threes, and then understand it's not about perfection, but it's all about connection. Give yourself permission to absorb the moment. Your brain is so powerful, your body is so powerful that it will tell you what you have. You already have the message inside of you. So how do we get it from here into their understanding? One of my favorite quotes is the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it has occurred. And in that, how do we make sure that our message is being conveyed? We need to be organized. We need to be, and then the other thing is, people think that the audience hears and sees their heart beating. Like right now, I'm nervous and sweating, but I have to understand that you can't hear the nervousness in my voice. You can't, although it may feel like my heart is pounding out of my chest, you can't see that. So then I take the focus off me and it's on them. It's what you said, Rob told you. It's not about you. It's about them. If you have a message that just one person needs to hear, then you've been successful. I know as speakers, we often look at the audience that we're talking to, and if one person is asleep, we think we have to shift everything. If you have 200 people in the room and one is asleep, you're good. Quit focusing on that one and focus on the 199. It's not about you, but we have to get our egos out of the way. We have to get our fear out of the way, because we have something that somebody needs to hear.
Yeah,
and how do we deliver that?
Yeah, I love that, because what happens is there's something magical, isn't it, when you're speaking, that you can see people who are physically engaged. They're
Yes.
nodding their head, they're
Yes.
looking forward.
Yes.
And one of the things that I learned is that whenever you're speaking, you look for those individuals because you're
Right.
connecting with them.
Yes.
And if you're speaking to them, there's something that's interesting. The connection you have with them literally creates an energy
Right.
around the people that are sitting around them.
Right.
And but you can look at different people in the room, and I've made that mistake before by finding the person over here trying to wake them up. I'm going, yeah, I don't know what this story is. Maybe he stayed up all night on a bender, or
Correct.
maybe he's got a problem going on in his life.
Right.
And I don't know.
Or maybe I'm not for that person, which is okay sometimes, and that our message is not. If 80% of the people are good, we're good.
You betcha.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is that also, and what you're making me think about is my job is to share, not preach.
That's right.
Share and then allow the audience to reach forward with this.
That's
So
right.
looking at this, what in the coaching that you've done, the observations you've done, are there a couple of sort of mistakes that you've seen people make whenever it comes to crafting a message and trying to deliver it?
One of the biggest ones is James Brown, my surname. I read a book on about him. I figured if I'm going to have the name, and yes, I am James Brown, and I am a junior. My dad is James Brown, but he's not the famous singer James Brown. But I wanted to do some research on why people loved him so much. What's the name? What is it about it? And he said, the thing that I love is, he said, I always left the crowd wanting more. Always leave them wanting more. As speakers, when we're delivering, we don't have to feel like we have to say every single thing we know. We don't have to. In my sales days, when I was doing that, it's called feature dumping. It's when you just start regurgitating out of the mouth because you get to a point. And so that's one, is you don't have to have all of the knowledge, but you don't have to say it all. And then give yourself permission to go with the audience. Some speakers are scripted and they have word for word written down. Others are outlined. People think you're talking off the cuff when it's research and history that is coming to play because the brain is so powerful. But it's very few people in the world where the audience has a script. Very few. So if you go off script, if you go off your script, it's okay. Nobody knows you're off script. The president, when he gives his State of the Union address, certain media has it. And so they'll talk after you hear, well, he went off script here. That's okay. Nobody knows what you're going to say except you. And so don't feel like you've messed up when the mood or the tone or the environment calls for something different to say in that moment that wasn't quote unquote written down line for line, word for word in your paper.
Yeah,
just keep going.
Yeah, I love that concept. I call it brick outside the head. Last couple of weeks, I keep getting this message, and so it means I got to spend more time with it. But the message brevity.
Yes,
is that I'd heard that Jerry Seinfeld will take an hour to work on a punchline.
Wow.
A 7-word punchline, trying to figure out how do I get it down to 5 words.
Yeah.
Because there's power in brevity.
Right.
And that's a great story. And last week, I'm doing some research and some self-study, and I run across it was Jay Leno, Dana Harvey, and forget the third one. They were talking about humor also.
Uh-huh.
And Leno said the exact same thing. He said he said that he said you have to work to try to squeeze things down to as few words as possible to have things really have impact.
Yeah.
And I love this thing that you can actually tell somebody's not prepared, can't you? That tries to speak extemporaneously.
Yes.
I've seen you in action, and you look extemporaneous. You know why you look extemporaneous? Because you prepare the heck before you get up on stage.
That's right.
And it's that preparation,
Right.
that preparation that allows you to be flexible, allows you to move with the audience, allows you to come up with stories on the spot that amplify. And that's whenever you're connecting with the audience, and I think I think there's some divine inspiration also that goes place, that when you prepare, you get honored with thoughts that you didn't prepare ahead of time.
Challenged you, or if you want to spend time digging into this subject a little deeper, or if you disagree with me, reach out. My contact information is on our website, lightingthepath.net, or email me at mike@mikelejeune.com. Also, look for me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect our networks. Keep lighting the path for those who choose to follow you. It's more than a responsibility. It's an honor.